Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we shall be casting our ever-critical eye over another Imperial Guard datasheet. This time, we are going to be deep diving the best of the best of the best, the Cadian elite, the Kasrkin. And let me tell you, I think these boys are a fantastic infantry choice for almost any Guard commander, and they have a home in pretty much any Imperial Guard list. A bold statement to be sure. I'm going to need to back this up. So without further ado, let's Cadia stands! Charge right into this thing. As is tradition, let us begin with a cheeky gander at the Kasrkin stat line. And what you'll notice is the Kasrkin have a stat line that's very similar to some of the other Imperial Guard choices that we've seen, such as Cadians and Kriegers. They've got a movement value of 6, they've got a toughness of 3, and they've got 1 wound with leadership 7+. What separates these guys from your line infantry and makes them a little bit more elite is the fact that they have a 4+ save. This represents the carapace armor, the thicker, better body armor that they get to wear. And they have actually a worse OC. They're only OC 1. You might think it's a bit unusual that elite troops, which should be better, have got a lower objective control. But this is more of a balanced thing than anything else. GW likes to have elite troops be better in many other areas of their stat line, but worse with the objective control, because that gives a reason for you to take things like your Cadian shock troops over your Kasrkin. Your Cadians are good at holding objectives, your Kasrkin are good at smashing the enemy. However, before we get into how they do that smashing and their war gear and equipment, I think it is worth just highlighting that just because you have a 4+ save, it does not suddenly make you a Terminator. Kasrkin may be a little bit more durable in comparison to your standard guardsman, but your standard guardsman still dies like piss. They still get blown away. And honestly, in a game like 40k, where things tend to be hyper lethal, there really isn't much difference between a 4+ save and a 5+ save. So in reality, if the Kasrkin aren't all that much more durable than regular troopers and their objective control is worse, what makes these guys so good? What makes them elite? Well, it comes down to the weapons of war gear, and let's dive into that right away. The Kasrkin unit composition consists of 1 sergeant and 9 Kasrkin troopers. Now, before we even look at what they're equipped with, it's actually important to just highlight the fact that you cannot take these guys in smaller squads of, let's say, 5 Kasrkin. This is one of the things that differentiates them from, let's say, Tempestus Scions and even the Krieg Combat Engineers, who are 2 other forms of elite infantry available to the Guard. They can be taken in 5 to 10-man squads, but Kasrkin, it's 10 every single time. That does come with some advantages. It means that your Kasrkin always comes a bigger squad, there's a few more wounds in there, there's a bit more war gear in there. The downside is, of course, that if you only wanted to take 5 for a cheeky mission to try and keep points down, you can't do that. So just bear that in mind when you're thinking about buying your Kasrkin and factoring in their points cost for when you're building your army list. You've got to spend the full amount on the full 10 every single time. Moving on, the sergeant comes equipped with a hotshot las pistol and chainsword, and every Kasrkin trooper is equipped with a hotshot las gun and close combat weapon. We are not going to stick with that loadout. That is a terrible loadout. We are going to get ourselves a lot of gear. And as you can see, the Kasrkin, they really get a lot of choice when it comes down to loading up on extra firepower and abilities. Straight off the bat, up to 4 Kasrkin troopers can each have their hotshot lasgun replaced with one of the following. Basically, take your hotshot lasgun, throw it away, and start picking yourself some special weapons. Now, you've got an option of flamers, grenade launchers, hotshot volley guns, melter guns, and plasma guns. However, it's important to note you can't take 4 of the same special weapon. You see there's this little asterisk just here on that sentence. That refers to this little bit of italic text down here. It's qualifying text, and it says you cannot select the same weapon from this list more than twice per unit. So when you're looking at this, you want to think of taking 2 of one special weapon and 2 of another special weapon. I highly, highly recommend you do not take one of each. So you don't go 1 flame, 1 grenade launcher, 1 hotshot volley gun, 1 melter gun, for example. All that's going to do is dilute your Kasrkin's capabilities. A lot of newer players think, well, if I take a bit of everything, I can handle everything. And the reality of the situation is, if you take a bit of everything, you can't handle anything. It's always better to concentrate, and it's always better to homogenize, and it's always better to whole ass one job than try and half-ass many jobs. With that in mind, which weapons should we focus on here? Personally, I have always found going double melter gun and double plasma gun to be the best way of running my Kasrkin special weapons. They complement each other very well, because if we scroll up here a little bit, you can see that the plasma gun and the melter gun are pretty similar in terms of their strength, strength 8 and strength 9, and they're very close in terms of their AP as well, with AP 3 on the overcharged plasma gun. By the way, you're always overcharged because the standard fire profile of the plasma gun is pretty wimpy. So you go for the overcharge, and the melter gun's AP 4. And the plasma gun doesn't do potentially as much damage as the melter gun, but it does fire 2 more shots, or fires 2 shots, I should say, because of rapid fire 1. So basically, they're similar strength, they're similar AP, they can do similar damage. They're great for getting up close and personal with, because you get more shots with the plasma gun. You can actually fire your melter gun because it's got a shorter range. They just very naturally complement each other. Sometimes I see newer players going like melter guns and flamers because they think, well, they're both at 12-inch range. Don't do that. Flamers and melter guns do completely different things. Again, flamers will help you with your anti-infantry. Melter guns will help you with your anti-tank. But what happens when you come across an actual big tough tank? Well, what happens is you just don't have enough firepower to deal with it. If you go melter gun and plasma gun, you can deal with those hard targets. There is a argument to be made for going plasma gun and hotshot volley gun. I don't like this argument. I have turned away from it. I used to kind of think it was a viable option, but I don't like it. Hotshot volley guns are really anti-infantry. And again, plasma guns and volley guns, they don't really complement each other that well. The volley gun is only strength 4, it's only AP -1, only does 1 damage. Plasma gun is double the strength, 3 times the AP, double the damage. They're just not really in the same ballpark. There is an argument to be made for plasma gun and grenade launcher, because the grenade launcher is got strength 9, it's got AP 2, it's got good damage as well. But even then, I tend to find that your Kasrkin, they are getting into the fights, they're getting up close and personal, they're getting within 12-inch range. And at that point, you're not really benefiting from the grenade launcher's longer range. That's the reason you take it. It's only got 1 shot, but it's always popping that 1 shot. I just have found through bitter experience that plasma gun and melter guns pair really nicely together. Anytime you can pair those weapons together, you should do. And in the case of the Kasrkin, I really like double melter gun and I really like double plasma gun. Now, I know I've really sort of flogged a dead horse there and over-egged the pudding on those special weapons, but I think it is an important part of this datasheet, maybe even the most important part. Let's take a look at some of the other equipment they can get, though. Unfortunately, this is super quick and straightforward. So 1 Kasrkin Trooper's hotshot lasgun can be replaced with a hotshot marksman rifle. Just do it. There's no choice, and the hotshot marksman rifle, as we can see here, is just way better. It's got better strength, it's got better AP, and it's flat damage 3. Yeah, it's really good. So swap out that hotshot lasgun for the marksman rifle. That's an easy choice. And then 1 Kasrkin Trooper's hotshot lasgun can be replaced with 1 hotshot pistol and a melter mine. Again, do that. We'll be looking at the melter mine later on when we look at abilities, both wargear abilities and datasheet abilities. And the melter mine is bloody fantastic. So definitely take that every time. You can also equip 1 of your Kasrkin with a Voxcaster. Now, unlike Tempestus Scions, I know we're not talking about Scions today, but this is an important distinction, who have to give up the hotshot rifle and take a hotshot pistol to be able to get the Voxcaster, Kasrkin don't do that. Kasrkin keep the hotshot lasgun and they just slap a Voxcaster on the back. This is really good because hot shot las pistols are absolutely terrible. Rifles aren't that much better, but they're better than the pistols. So in this case, you always go for the Voxcaster. It's just like getting a free bit of war gear. There's no downside to doing it. As for your sergeant, he can swap the chainsword out for the power weapon. Do that every single time. You do not care about having one extra strength 3 AP nothing attack. You do care about going up to strength 4. You do care about having AP -2 for sure. And then when it comes to the Kasrkin Sergeant's hotshot las pistol, throw that thing out and give him a plasma pistol. We've seen how good plasma is. We've seen its fantastic profile. The plasma pistol just gives you an extra plasma shot out of the squad. It's an extra shot that can actually do damage. So always go for it. And this is a golden rule for whenever you're building your guard units. If you can get a plasma pistol over like a bolt pistol or las pistol, always do. If you can get a power weapon over like a chainsword, always do it. It's a straight upgrade. Doesn't cost you any points. Just do it. I appreciate I've thrown a lot of information at you guys in a short space of time, so let me just summarize what I think the best Kasrkin loadout is. You want to have 2 troopers with melter guns, 2 troopers with plasma guns. You want to have 1 trooper with the marksman rifle. You want to have 1 trooper with the las pistol and the melter mine. You want to have 1 trooper with the hotshot lasgun and Voxcaster, and you want to have your sergeant with a plasma pistol and power weapon. Now that should be 4 plus rifle plus las pistol and melter mine plus Voxcaster plus sergeant. That should be 8 specialists in the unit, which leaves you in a 10-man squad 2 basic bozos with rifles. Now that's a lot of firepower in a really small package. In fact, that's as much firepower as a big 20-man platoon of Cadians, if not more. Yet you're getting it for just 10 guys. And in fact, when you think about the fact that the platoon's probably going to have a command squad in there as well, Kasrkin is significantly cheaper and they're bringing more firepower than a platoon of guys. This is why they're so good. This is why I say they're a great choice of infantry in almost any guard army. Because they're elite and they punch well above their weight. They're going to die just the same as regular guardsmen, but they're going to be swinging a lot harder. Quick side note, some of you are probably wondering, well, if Kasrkin are so good, why would I ever bother with battle line infantry like Cadians and Kriegers? They do very different jobs. Your battle line infantry come in bigger mobs. That means more wound density. You can stretch the squads out a lot further. That makes really good for like screening out deep striking units and for covering more of the battlefield. And they've also got more objective control, so they can do objective primary game better. The battle line infantry does a different job, basically. The Kasrkin's job is to be a scalpel, is to go in there and to surgically remove something from the enemy army. Your line infantry's job is to concentrate on doing things like primary objectives and getting in the way of your opponent. But let's get back on topic. We've looked at the stat line, we've looked at the unit composition, and we have looked at our loadout. But there's still more to come, and arguably the best bits are to come, and that is the abilities and the war gear abilities. This is no exaggeration. This part of the datasheet takes Kasrkin from being a solid unit to a top tier unit. First up, we have got what might seem like a minor little 3 words, but it's so important. Core ability, Scout, 6 inches. Amazing. Scouts is one of the most powerful abilities in the game. It doesn't look like it. It just seems like, oh, an extra 6 inch movement, but it's amazing. Movement wins games. That's an old adage in 40k, and it remains true to this day. It's why certain factions are always overpowered and certain factions always seem to struggle a little bit, because maneuverability means you often get to hit first rather than being hit first. It means you can get onto objectives. It means you can react to battlefield situations. So movement wins games, and anything that gives you more movement is very, very valuable. Being able to get a free 6-inch move before the game begins is incredibly valuable, both offensively and defensively. think about it. You don't know who's going to get the first turn. So you could deploy your Kasrkin out there kind of aggressively, but maybe near an L-shaped ruin. If you get the first turn, you can scout 6 inches forward, start taking the fight to the enemy straight away, because you could scout 6 inches, and you can move 6 inches. Maybe you've got move, the order available, so you can move 3 inches. And suddenly your Kasrkin are getting 15 inches of the board. They might start getting an angle, so they can see any enemy units that might be trying to hide, and they just start laying that firepower in straight away. Don't forget also that scouts on the Kasrkin will transfer to any dedicated transport that they're in. Of course, every model in that transport needs to have scouts. So if you add like a Castellan onto the unit or something, they wouldn't get scouted anymore. But let's just presume you've taken, let's say, 10 Kasrkin on their own, and you've put them in a Taurox. That means if you get first turn, the Taurox can scout move 6 inches forward, then it can move 12 inches forward, and it can advance because it's a Taurox. So on average, that's another 4 inches. So we're looking at 16 inches forward. Now we're going 22 inches, 6 plus 12 plus 4, 22 inches. Then you disembark from the Taurox, because you can disembark after it's advanced, and you count as only having been made a normal move. You disembark 3 inches. That's another 3 inches forward. That's 25 inches. And you can still shoot, because that's just how the Taurox works. Not every transport works that way, but that's how the Taurox works. That's a 25-inch threat range. And then you've got the actual range of the guns as well. So you can, that opens up all of these angles. So looking at Scout as just 6 inches, nothing. It's actually a really big deal. It really pairs with all these other things that happen in the Guard. That's looking at it offensively. But what about defensively? Perhaps your deployment zone doesn't quite have as much cover in it as you would like. And so you hide loads of units behind L-shaped ruins, but there's a few units that you just can't hide. Well, what you can do is put those maybe out front, a little bit more exposed, but if you go second, rather than scouting forward aggressively, which will probably just lead to units dying, you just go, oh, I'll scout 6 inches behind this ruin here. So scout is very good for being used offensively to get into the enemy early on. It's very good for protecting units and making sure that you can have everyone in cover and hidden, so you don't just get blown off the table at the beginning of the game. And what's crazy is Scouts isn't even the best ability on the data sheet. I've just been going on and on and on about how good it is, and it's not even the best bit. Warrior Elite. I think this is the best bit about Kasrkin. So good. Once per battle round at the start of any phase, you can select one order to affect this unit until the start of your next command phase, in addition to any other orders issued to this unit by an officer model this battle round. There are so many ways you can use and abuse this. It's amazing. Simply put, Kasrkin don't need an officer to boss them around. They can just order themselves. So if you are struggling to get enough orders into your list, you're like, oh, I need some for my infantry blobs, I need some for my artillery, maybe I need some for my sentinels, or I need some tank orders. You might be like, I'm just spending so many points on officers just to order units that I'm almost spending as much on my officers as I am on my units, which you don't want to do that. Kasrkin just go, don't worry, boss, we'll look after ourselves. So straight away, it just makes the order efficiency way better. What's also important about this, and what's a big update from the index, is you can use this not only from coming in from reserves, because let's say you come in the movement phase and then start the shooting phase, because start of any phase, start the shooting phase, you go, you know what, I think we'll take aim now, lads. Brilliant. Or when you're disembarking from a transport, this is where it's really big, because the old Warrior Elite, I won't get into it now, but the old Warrior Elite did work from reserves, which is a bit funny. The new Warrior Elite not only works very clearly from reserves, but also very clearly works from disembarking from a transport. The old Warrior Elite didn't do that, and the new Warrior Elite does. So this means you can drive, we talked before about just yeeting a Taurox forward. You can drive that Taurox forward, you can do all your advancing, go your full 25 inches, jump out, and then go start the shooting phase. Yeah, we're going to order ourselves to take aim. And take aim is pretty much the order you definitely want to go for, because your Kasrkin natively hit on a 3-up. By the way, the 4+ for the bolt pistol and the pulse pistol, that is a mistake on the datasheet that has been covered by an FAQ. So natively, you hit on a 3-up. So if you tell your guys to take aim, you're hitting on a 2+. That's right, guardsmen hitting as good as custodies for basically the low cost of free. You don't even need an officer to do this. So that's a great way of looking at Warrior Elite in isolation on its own. But you could actually really stack this up with orders from other officers. So a really popular way of using Kasrkin is not to have them in transports, but to have them in just on foot. And so what happens is they scout up their 6 inches, and then in your first command phase, an officer with a Master Vox goes, "You lads, move." So now they've got a 9-inch move. So they move 6, then they scout 6, then they move 9. And then in the shooting phase, they tell themselves, we're going to take aim. So you don't even need to spend the points on a Taurox to get them really fast. And it just means that they're just really maneuverable. And what did we say before? Movement wins games. So Warrior Elite, it's incredibly flexible. It can start getting crazy, by the way. I'm going to be doing a separate video on this, but you can, I think, get 4 orders on Kasrkin. Sounds crazy, because you can have Creed order them twice. Creed can join Kasrkin, so you can have Creed order them twice. Then they could order themselves 3 times. Then you've got a stratagem in the combined arms attachment, which lets you then basically get an extra order on them, and they swap orders with a vehicle. It's all kind of crazy. I think it's like flexible command or combined command or something like that. But the point is that you can get up to 4 orders on your Kasrkin. You're never going to, because that's just a flex more than at that point. It's not even useful. But it is crazy how much you can stack orders on the Kasrkin with the Warrior Elite. But the simple way, and the way that most people do it, is they go move plus take aim. Great. Or if the enemies, or if you don't need the maneuverability, the enemies already come to you, you can go first rank fire and take aim, and then you've got a whole bunch of extra shots, and you're hitting on 2s. It just makes the squad so flexible, and it just makes them punch really hard. We've also got 2 war gear abilities as well. The first one is Voxcaster. You should be familiar with this from things like the Cadian review that we've done and the Krieg review. Basically, each time you spend stratagem on a unit with a Voxcaster on a 5+, you gain 1 CP. If there's an officer within 6 inches, it's on a 4+, you gain 1 CP. Typically with Kasrkin, it's probably going to be the 5-up rather than the 4-up, and that's because they tend to operate independently and not have too many officers nearby. Voxcaster's fine, but you'll probably find you pick up the extra CP from Voxcaster from other units, like your big blobs of Cadians and Kriegers and Katachans, who all get 2 Voxcasters, so you get 2 chances to do the role. But it's a nice ability to have, and it's free, so why not? The biggie is the Melter Mine. I love the Melter Mine. So many competitive players love the Melter Mine. It is a ridiculous piece of war gear that is just so much fun to use. So it's a once per battle ability, so you can't do it every turn, it's once per battle. At the start of any phase, you can select 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer and roll 1d6. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds, or 2d3 mortal wounds instead if it is a vehicle unit. What's great about this ability is it's any phase. So your opponent might charge you with something, and you go, okay, well, at the start of the fight phase, I'm going to activate my Melter Mine. Oh. And it's at the start of the fight phase. So it's before your opponent's had a chance to swing. That could make a really big difference. If there's an enemy character that's charging in, maybe they're a little bit injured, maybe they've only got 3 wounds, chance you just Melter Mine them. You just frisbee the Melter Mine into them before they get to hurt you. Maybe there's a shattered unit of close combat specialists that are coming in that if they all attack, they'll butcher your Kasrkin, but you throw the Melter Mine at them, and who knows, if they're only 1 wound each. A lot of Eldar assault units are only 1 wound each. Just that's 3 Howling Banshees gone. See you later. That's a Khorne Berserker gone. See you later. Just, I mean, it's not guaranteed. It's a 2+. You're probably always going to roll that 1 at the worst possible time. But the point is, it's just free D3 mortal wounds. And if someone charges you with a vehicle, that could be up to 6 mortal wounds. For a lot of vehicles, that's like even heavy vehicles, like the Lehman Russ, for example, that's half or nearly half of their total wounds gone. Now, of course, the average is 4, but the potential for it to spike can cause your opponent a lot of dilemmas. And remember, you want to cause your opponent dilemmas, not problems. Problems have solutions, dilemmas have no good option. Oh, and one thing to mention, if you use the reinforcement stratagem on Kasrkin, and you can do because they do have the regiment keyword, then the new squad would come back with a new melter mine, because it's a fresh squad coming in. So if you're taking 3 units of Kasrkin and one of them gets reinforcemented, and they're a really good target for reinforcements, that's potential of 4 melter mines over the course of the game. That's a lot of just free mortal wounds that you're just spaffing out. And speaking of stratagems, there's nothing stopping you from grenading the enemy unit and then melter mining them, especially if you're very close to them or if you charge them afterwards. And potentially, and yes, we're looking at an absolute best case scenario here, but potentially that could be 12 mortal wounds, because you could do 6 from the grenades and you could do up to 6 from the melter mine if it's against a vehicle. The average, however, is 5, so bear that in mind, but 12 mortal wounds. It's going to happen one time. Bringing all of this together, Kasrkin are a fantastic infantry choice in the Guard, because not only do they come with a slightly better save, but they come with a lot more firepower. They're also completely independent and self-contained. They're able to order themselves, and they're super fast with the Scout's ability. Combine this with the potential for a lot of mortal wound output, and you have a unit that can move fast and hit hard and just really punch upwards. Downside, of course, is not as many bodies, not as good primary objective play, but you have other units in your army that can do that job, and you can have your Kasrkin focusing on taking the fight to the enemy, snapping necks, and cashing checks. Well, at least that's what I think. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Are you a big Kasrkin fan? Or do you prefer things like Scions and Engineers to get the tough jobs done? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button. It really does help boost the video with the YouTube algorithm. And I learned recently that actually, if you didn't like the video, you can go ahead and dislike it, because YouTube doesn't know the difference between the two. It just sees interactivity. That's great. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. that's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.